You know, I went into my reread looking for one thing, and I came out with this mess. What the internet has called Easter eggs, I think might actually be perhaps a bit more than that. Bear with me while I break it down for you. So, like everybody else, I've been rereading all of the Maasverse books, getting ready for this next ACOTAR 6 book. And as I'm going through Crescent City, I'm noticing a lot of similarities with Throne of Glass. For example, various rulers like to hide as High Fae. Also, there's more than one nameless king in this series. At first, I thought it was, maybe she was taking another stab at Throne of Glass now that she's more mature and having more fun as an author. And then I got back to ACOTAR, and the whole chart happened. So, a couple of caveats I want to say before we actually get into this. Any names you don't recognize are spoiler free encouragements to do the reading. If any of them stand out to you and you're curious, then I would strongly suggest you read the series that character's in. But for those who don't want to do the extra homework, I get it. My husband and I are currently working on a project where I'm explaining all of this to him. So he will stand in for you as the audience and ask all the questions. So keep an eye out for that. With all of that said, do your best to follow the pattern, not the names. Okay, I'm going to give the briefest, most succinct summary of the relevant parts of the Throne of Glass series as I can. Keep in mind, this is 9 books if you count The Assassin's Blade, the prequel. I did not particularly enjoy the series. I found it slow and kind of a drag. And I recognize that at some point in the future, I'm going to need to go through that reread for various aspects of this channel. But basically, when the Northern Rift happened and, the tears and realities and all the things, some of those creatures that were going between worlds also got stuck in Irelia. That's the world for Throne of Glass. Some of those creatures became the gods for the humans of this world. Some of those creatures are of more ill intent. They are called the Valg. Well, the Valg is the primary influence on this world throughout most of the series. They are able to possess people and basically spread that way. So, they're gods, which are actual entities and closer to demigods than anything else, make a deal with the humans that they need to basically make this lock called the Eye of Elena. And the king that volunteered to make this lock knew that he would be giving up his entire life in order to funnel all of his essence into it because that's just what's required. Well, the daughter of that king decides that she's going to use it prematurely and fucks up the whole plan. So basically, she's got to now make up for that and make a new lock / guide our hero, Aelin, through the process of making a new lock and all the things. The agreement was that once the king made this lock, he would use it to help those demigods get back to their homeworld, and in exchange, they would take the Valg with them. This would free their world of the Valg influence and yay, happily ever after. The problem is that his daughter used the lock prematurely. As such, an agreement needed to be made that, because she died being a human and all that, right? So her ghost needs to guide the hero, Aelin, towards making a new lock and fulfilling that promise that Elena fucked up. Elena's the daughter's name. And I think that's all that I need to say about Throne of Glass. I do strongly encourage you to read it for yourselves because there is a lot of very good information in it, and it is a well done story. It's just not as good as Crescent City, which is to be expected as she matures and grows as an author. Okay, so on the surface, this is a pretty standard fantasy story. Not a whole lot of overlap, right? Except for the Easter eggs that, if you know, you know. But now we're going to start filling out this chart right here. And we're going to start with the 4 prime roles that the characters seem to fill. We have the guide. This is the person that is leading our hero through the process to do the thing that they're supposed to do. For reference, in Throne of Glass, we know that's to make the new lock to hold the word keys. In Crescent City, we have Celine, who left basically that hologram thing so that Bryce could find the rest of her power and, start setting things right. And for Crescent City, there are a few options, but this series is only 3 books long right now. So this could change, and honestly, I'm more interested in your thoughts for this one. But for Crescent City, my best guess is Jessica, especially because of her interactions with Adis along the way. We have the hero, our oh so obvious Aelin, oh so obvious Bryce, and a not so obvious, I think this one's Nesta for ACOTAR. Which then brings us to the next one, the alternate hero. Because it seems they never seem to put all of their eggs in one basket. So for Throne of Glass, we have Dorian. Crescent City, we've got Rune with that whole Starborn thing. And I'm theorizing on this one again, but for ACOTAR, I think it's Feyre. Maybe Elaine. And then we have the Catalyst. This is someone very close and important to the hero that dies in order to start them on their path. In Throne of Glass, we have the very obvious Nehemia. Crescent City, also fairly obvious, Danica. And for ACOTAR, I'm pretty sure this is Feyre under the mountain. Another important point to note about the Catalyst is that they know they're going to die in order to do the thing to start the path. Nehemia, Danica, and Feyre, when she goes under the mountain in the first place, all fulfill that. And that brings us back to why I think Nesta is actually the hero here. Then we've got the double agent. In Throne of Glass, that's Kaltain. Crescent City, pretty obvious. We got Lydia. And this is the fun one for me. For ACOTAR, I'm pretty sure it's the mother. See, I think the mother's Asteri, because we know that other Asteri have been left behind. And we know the cauldron is a kill switch. So I think the mother is actually an Asteri meant to guard over the cauldron. Alternatively, it could be Eris. I'm willing to see him as the double agent as well. And then we have the varying levels of evil regime. For Throne of Glass, the Valg is in power. They are very evil. In ACOTAR, they're called the Daglan. Still pretty evil, I think. And in Crescent City, those same Daglan entities are known as the Asteri, who are genuinely chaotic neutral at best. Okay, so here are some more commonalities that are more theories than anything else, and I really want to know what you guys have to say about it. They all have a specific artifact that I'm not really sure what their grand meaning is. For Throne of Glass, that's the Eye of Elena. For ACOTAR, it's the Book of Breathings. And for Crescent City, it's the Book of the Dead. Which, fun fact, it just so happens that one artifact of great value from each world with Prythian and Crescent City happen to have switched places. Interesting. The Atoned Father, that's an interesting one. In Throne of Glass, we have Dorian Sr. In ACOTAR, we have the Prince of Merchants. And in Crescent City, we have the Autumn King. Now, the thing about the Autumn King is that he hasn't actually had his redemption. So, there's no real evidence to base that on, but the vibes. This is a male who learned an awful lot about all sorts of things that are all centered around Prythian to be killed off as quickly as he was with no payout. So it wouldn't surprise me if he ends up pulling a Dorian Sr. and we see him again later on. Also notice how we don't know the name of the Prince of Merchants, which is all I can think of to call the Atoned Father, which honestly, I think that needs to be its own video because I have a whole lot of thoughts on these whole nameless characters. We have specific characters who are hiding as either High Fae or resemble High Fae. For Throne of Glass, we have the oh-so-obvious Maeve. In Crescent City, we have the also-obvious Rigelus. And for ACOTAR, I'm theorizing here, but I think we've got the King of Highburn. We don't know his name. He's the king of some random extra court that has nothing to do with seasons or time or any of that. We really don't know what his motives are. We don't know how old he is. We don't know anything about him. I just find that interesting. And then we get to the reason this protocol, or whatever you want to call it, is started to begin with. And that's where things get complicated. So in Throne of Glass, we have entities that got stuck because of that whole Northern Rift thing, right? We have the entities that became their gods and the Valg. All of them are stuck in this world. The difference is that the Valg kind of like being there and they want to expand, while their gods, which we don't have a confirmed name for, they just want to go home. So their reason is going home. We don't know where home is. We don't know anything more about it other than, how things actually play out in the books. But we do know that Prythian is the prize when it comes to the Asteri. Now, the Asteri, I believe, could be either the Valg or those race of gods. And honestly, I'm 50-50. I don't know which way I go. It changes day to day. The Asteri are, again, chaotic neutral at best. And they do a lot of the same tactics that the Valg do. And it's for the same reasons that the Valg are doing everything. Expansion. But those gods that got stuck, though, like, where's home for them? Was that Prythian? Like, because I'm pretty sure the Asteri were actually ruling Prythian at the time that these entities got stuck. So maybe I'm wrong there. Let me know what you think in the comments. So while none of it is confirmed, I do believe the Asteri, Daglan, whatever, are somewhere in Throne of Glass. I believe that world is where the shifters in Crescent City come from, the ones that are animal specific, not the ones like Lysandra. And in order for those creatures to be lured over to Midgard the way that everyone was, the Asteri would have had to interact with them. So again, they could be Valg, they could be those little demigods, could be something else. But Prythian is a special case for them. I noticed in my reread an emphasis on wild magic, that wild magic still exists in the middle, that Kozche and these other ancient entities all seem to exist with this wild magic, that it's wild magic that gives the cauldron-made items actual sentience and personality. And in Crescent City, we learn that there is a particular resource on Prythian that the Asteri are particularly drawn to. It's probably that wild magic. Also, the fact that they lost Prythian to a bunch of Fae and humans, that's going to definitely hurt their pride and possibly be narcissistic injury if you want to go that route. So yeah, they're going to come back, they're going to retaliate, and Prythian is the prize. So what does all of this mean? What's it for? And honestly, I don't know. I'm real good at the pattern recognition, not so great at predicting what authors are going to do with their IPs. But if the Book of Breathings is what activated the protocol or whatever for this universal thing that seems to be connecting Crescent City and ACOTAR with a little bit of Throne of Glass in there at the end, why? What's the purpose? Personally, my theory is that this is all the mother's doing. That whatever happened to the Asteri homeworld, she is pissed. And I think she's setting the Asteri up to fall. I think she's gathering the different pieces that are necessary to wipe out the Asteri once and for all as a race. And whether the mother is an Asteri herself or something else, I don't know. But I want to hear your theories and what you have to say about all of this hot mess that just kind of happened. But honestly, while we wait for these last 3 books to come out, I very much look forward to seeing how this unfolds, to whatever end.